Hello again. Now, this week, I told you it's the quiet time, but success has been had, and I want to give you a feeling never to give up hope, because amazing things can happen at auction. We're always told every sale is online, the world is watching, and things will make what they will make. The truth is rather different. Some auctioneers are extremely good at promoting themselves. Some are terrible. Sometimes you're just holding the auction on a bad day when all the other bidders would have something else to do. They've got to go to the hospital. They're seeing a relative off on the plane. A whole host of factors can play into what happens. Even now, even with the internet, even with the world bidding, because the world's a big place and it takes me half my time and I don't really do anything else to look through all the catalogues, and other people have lives. So it is a case now where you think nothing will ever slip through, but it does. And this is why you must also, and I want you to carve this in stone somewhere so you can look at it, always leave a bid. I was looking at a small sale room last week, week and a bit ago actually, and there was nothing really exciting in the silver, but I noticed in the jewellery section there was a lot of small buckles, gilt buckles, paste buckles, nothing very exciting, so it seemed, and they were in for basically very little indeed. I spied a couple of things which might have been interesting. I didn't know. I didn't have the time to ask the auctioneer for pictures, and I don't think that would have been tremendously helpful anyway. There's only one image of all the buckles shoved together. So what did I do? I did what any good dealer does. I left a bid. I left a small covering bid and thought no more about it. A day or two later, I get the notification that I was the only person to leave a bid, and the lot had started off at £10. And I bought it for £10, although I would have to pay premiums on top, the dreaded premiums, and postage. But happily, I do not begrudge paying an auction house a reasonable postage cost, and much to their credit, even though it was more than I paid for the lot, they were happy to parcel it up and post it out to me, and that was all done and dusted. So a couple of days ago, having forgotten all about it, this little parcel of buckles arrived, and yes, there were a couple of bits of rubbish that unfortunately were out of some child's play box and had to go in the bin. There's a little bit of gilt metal which I shall put in a charity box, and someone at Oxfam can go and pay £3 or £4 for it and do very well. And then there were these. And this is what I'm going to show you. So remember, these were all £10 plus premium, plus the postage, which was more than that. But this is the first thing. And believe me, I didn't buy the lot for this. This is it's just a nice Victorian buckle. It's just a nice silver Victorian buckle. But it's made by William Neal, who is a big manufacturer. He's actually a Birmingham manufacturer. But this is marked in Chester, so that was nice. I didn't know that when I bought it. So it is a bit of Victorian, dated 1900 Chester silver, and I think the nice thing about it, apart from the fact that it's absolutely clean and honest, is it has the hallmarks here. It then has a part mark, as all good buckles should, certainly Victorian ones, on the chape, which is silver. But then I noticed, very much to my surprise, and again because it's a separate piece really, part marks on one prong, because there are three sections. There's the frame, there is this part of the chape, and then there is this part of the chape. So all three sections, for something as small as this, were tested and were assayed, and that weighs just under an ounce. So that was effectively the entire value of what I paid, less postage, in its bullion value. But it is a lovely buckle, late Victorian bit of Chester silver, and if you're a Chester collector, you could probably buy that off me quite reasonably. I am willing to part with that. The next thing, which I didn't know was in the lot because I don't think it was photographed, or if it was photographed, I missed it, was this. Now, this is an interesting buckle because how do you secure it? You've only got prongs. How does that hold two pieces together? Well, it doesn't. This is, albeit with a break in the stem, because it's so fragile, it's ridiculous. This is a hatband buckle. So when you see all those period dramas and a gentleman doffs his cap, obviously the cap, the band where there's a little buckle, that only has to be there for decoration. It doesn't secure anything. So this slips onto that band and the prongs just secure it in place. It doesn't need to hold anything else. So that is a ladies, or more probably a gentleman's, hatband buckle. And that's simulating bright cut engraved steel or faceted steel, but it's in silver, and it's got three little tiny marks. It's got TW is the maker's mark in a little fringed oval, so I know exactly who that is. That is Thomas Wilmore of Birmingham. Doesn't have a Birmingham assay mark on it, the anchor, the town mark, but it has what it was required, legally required to have, the duty mark and the standard mark. And this will date sometime from about 1786 up to about 1800, which is fabulous. So that was a make weight that I didn't know I was buying. A little, albeit slightly broken, Georgian hat buckle. Again, available for modest sums if you want to start your collecting with that. But the reason I bought the lot, I remember we've taken care of the cost of it with those two little bits and bobs already, and we've thrown some trash in the bin, and we've got a couple of things for the Oxfam charity box, were these. And this is what I immediately spotted looking through the catalogue, and these are stock buckles, sometimes called cravat buckles by more grandiose silver dealers than I, but we call them stock buckles. And these are to secure a band or stock around your neck, probably a cravat. The reason I think someone makes the distinction is stocks are very military, though, to keep your head up, and they're very uncomfortable, whereas cravats, of course, are elegant pieces of fabric and are much more comfortable and the sort of thing you would wear with a silver buckle. But these secure them in place. And as fashions for larger or wider stocks or cravats begin, later in the 18th century, they get longer. In the early 18th century, they're shorter and stubbier. Now, this one is unmarked, but for a reason which I'm not going to tell you because it might mean lots of people start defacing buckles, I can tell you that this is Irish. And if you're interested in that, it's all simulated cast and simulated bright cut, but not a mark on it. 4 prongs, all original, and these buttons would clip in to the stock or a fitting for the cravats, and then the material would pass through. I think they are more for stocks than cravats, but the person that calls them cravat buckles I respect enormously, so you can use either, but most people will call it a stock buckle. This fellow has no marks on the frame, but it does have a maker's mark struck twice here, which is IN in script. It may be a London maker that isn't recorded, that's a possibility. It may also again be Irish. There is an Irish provincial maker using that IN script mark, and also one working in Dublin. And the fact that this one I know to be Irish means possibly they are, but possibly they're not as well. But this is lovely because this is early. This is around 1750, 1755 in date. And these earlier stock buckles are rare. These later ones, they're not common either, but these later ones are more abundant. And you'll often see the difference with the larger, later ones, and this is about 1775, 1780 in date, you have the 4 silver buttons here. The earlier ones, you have the 3. But of course, if you have a smaller late 18th century stock buckle, that will only have 3 on it as well, 3 little buttons. The nice thing about this, often they are personalised, and this one is initialed IG on the back here, because this is the largest area to engrave something. So this is rare and quite valuable. This is very collectible and uncommon. That's a bit of fun, a little bit of Georgian costume for a hatband. And there's a nice bit of Chester silver for somebody that wanted to start collecting Chester. Nice bit of Victorian Chester silver smothered with hallmarks. £10 bid. It can happen. Do not think you need fortunes to start collecting genuine antiques. Remember, 3 of those pieces are 18th century silver. 3 pieces of 18th century silver and a big heavy bit of Victorian silver for £10 bid. It's what I do, but you can do it as well. Anybody could have bid on that lot a couple of weeks ago. It's just nobody did. So I would pick your specialism, and I would spend a lot of time looking, and I do, and it pays off. And if you can't be bothered, not a problem. Once I found it, you can buy it off me. So there you go. That's a bit of frippery, really, because I haven't found anything else this week. But it just goes to show people that tell you the world of antiques is expensive. I could not have gone and bought fish and chips round the corner for the bid that bought these. It's amazing, really. So don't give up hope. Keep looking. I will as well. And hopefully next week something more interested. I'm sorry we are limited to my little finds to talk about. It's been over a year now of doing these talks, and there are something appalling like over 100 videos now. And I would like to go to big collections and look at big important bits of silver and tell you about them, and other things as well. But unfortunately that requires a little bit of investment and possibly the intervention of a television company. And they aren't my best friends, as many of you will know. Some of them bear a grudge. Not wholly undeserved, it must be said. Do not speak truth to power, is all I can tell you if you want a long-running career in television. But maybe one day I'll be Arthur Negus style, dropped into a stately home or a lovely collection with a couple of my chums, and we might look at things, and we could put it on YouTube or one of the very many desperate British TV channels that seem to be at pains to fill their schedule with the little bald man with the flat cap and the chippy demeanour. I think probably 15 years of him is more than enough. Anyway, that's my personal bias to one side. Remember, it's all out there. You can do it too, although if you do it against me, I'll probably break your legs. But on that happy note, goodbye for this week and good antiques hunting.